Hi everyone, it's me! You clicked on the video. How's it going? Folks, I have something awful to admit. I am an avid watcher of Girl World. I know, okay, but here's the thing. Girl World gives me the biggest sense of schadenfreude. Like, no matter how shitty my life is, theirs is going to be significantly worse. For those who may not know, Girl World is this eclectic, eccentric online community with people aptly dubbed Hater Nation.
Is that I, as a person, am nowhere near as bad as the people who are part of Hater Nation
that consume and create content about problematic content creators where their content is mostly centered around their toxic behaviors and eating disorders. The main characters of Girl World that at least I've kind of noticed over the years have been Eugenia Cooney, Foodie Beauty, and the most popular girl in school, our subject matter of today, Amberlynn Reid. Amberlynn Reid is like a train wreck that I can't look away from. I am physically unable to look away from this fucking train wreck. She is such a disaster that I don't even know if it's funny anymore. Deadass, like, there's people making a bag just talking about some of her crazy, absolute bonkers behavior. Like they make a bag talking about this disaster of a 35-year-old woman. Talking Mr. Snowflake. I'm talking Karina Kaboom. I'm talking The Ankle. I'm talking OhLordyitsJordy. And this is how you know that I am a real fan of Girl World. I got the reaction channels on lock. Me and Salty Crab are best friends. She just doesn't know it yet. I'd also like to preface this video by saying I'm not going to be discussing Amberlynn's weight in a critiquing or derogatory or joking manner. If you want fat jokes, you go and go to OhLordyitsJordy. That's just not me. That's not my type of humor. Also, pot calling the kettle black, I'm not exactly a skinny bitch either. I've never been a skinny bitch. Also, like, her weight is none of my fucking business. However, her toxic behavior, that becomes my business. That's where I will punch low and I will punch hard. I'd also like to say that this video is going to include topics of abuse, domestic violence, eating disorders. So if none of that is your speed, that's totally fine. Feel free to click away and come back for the next one that I post in 8 months. But if this is your speed and you're comfortable hearing and talking about these sort of issues, then strap in, because this is gonna get bonkers. So I'm also not going to get into like a really big deep dive of her history and her past, because if I did that, this video would be 7 hours long and I would need a conspiracy board back here with like the little red string attached and like the X-Files music, and we don't have fucking time for that, all right? We are on a time crunch. I'm just gonna kind of do a brief history of Amberlynn Reid and then kind of more details about the stuff that really encouraged me to make this video. So Amberlynn Reid is a lifestyle weight loss vlogging channel that started way back in the early decades of YouTube. And she said that she wasn't a weight loss channel.
channel is not a weight loss channel.
But then decided that she was a weight loss channel.
Like abuse. Like, this is, it's like sending alcohol to an alcoholic.
But then said she wasn't a weight loss channel.
Actually lose some weight. No, I don't know. I just don't want to focus like super hard on like weight loss.
And then I don't know what the fuck she wants from me anymore.
I'd also like to add that I can confidently say that because in almost every single one of my videos, I am talking about how I want to improve my weight with weight loss surgery. That has been the most talked about topic on my channel.
Amberlynn Reid's time on YouTube can be summed up in eras based on her ex-girlfriends. That to me is absolutely wild. I don't look at a YouTube channel, like I don't go back and look at like Markiplier and be like, this FNAF video was back in the insert ex-girlfriend here era. Nobody does that. Not a single person. Usually eras on YouTube are defined by career-making milestones. You know, you think about like Smosh and you have, oh, the Defy era, the Mythical era, the Anthony Ian era. But, you know, it makes sense that we can't do that with Amberlynn Reid because her content has never fucking changed. It is the most boring, nothing content I have ever seen in my life. And it is crazy to think that this woman who makes the most boring content I have ever seen somehow has more controversies than Shane Dawson.
I'm going to start by saying I am not a fucking pedophile.
The X eras follow a very similar pattern, and they go as follows. She meets a girl, they become girlfriends, the girlfriend moves in very quickly, you have the honeymoon period, and then the toxicity starts to come out, and they start to hate each other, and then either she cheats or they cheat, or one of them cheats on each other, or maybe they're both cheating, and then they break up, the girlfriend moves out, Amberlynn already has another girlfriend lined up, so on and so forth. And this has happened with almost every single girlfriend out there. It started with Crystal, Casey, Destiny.
Why do you have the golden arches in your hand?
Why did you eat 20-piece McNugget?
Beck.
So how was your food?
I think fathers should be allowed maternity leave.
Feline, Jade, Wifey, whatever the fuck her name is.
Okay, so it's time for the weigh.
It's Valentine, and then now the most recent one being Tommy Emily.
My girlfriend behind my back was calling me Pocahontas.
The X's are typically the crux of her content because, as previously stated, she's really fucking boring. And the X's are typically the more interesting thing about her. Whoever she's dating at the time is like more interesting than she is, even when they aren't seen on camera. But I also can't make an Amberlynn Reid video without at least discussing her weight and the diet cycles at least a little bit. So if you don't define Amberlynn Reid by her X, you typically define her by whatever fad diet she's fallen into as of recent. The diet cycles kind of go like this. She realizes that she has a problem, and then she decides she has to do something about the problem, so she tries this brand new miracle diet or medication or what have you. It doesn't give her results in 5 days, so she stops and then packs on all the weight again, and then the cycle bitterly continues over and over and over and over and over again. And usually people's diets and things like that aren't any of my business, but I don't know if you noticed, but Amberlynn Reid is a heavier woman. I noticed. Because I didn't let the woke mind virus get to me. Suck on that, liberals. Usually I really don't give a fuck because it's not my health, it's not my body, but it becomes hypocritical. It looks like you don't want what's best for you and what's best for the people around you because you just keep putting yourself in these really, really shitty situations. She also loves to blame anybody else that is not her for why she keeps gaining weight. She loves to blame anything and everything under the sun except for herself. Like, if a diet fails, it's the diet's fault and not the fact that she orders DoorDash 3 times a day. No, that couldn't possibly be it. It's the diet. It's not me. I didn't do that. Another really, really important character trait to understand about Amberlynn Reid is her habitual, consistent, compulsive lying. Amberlynn is the biggest liar I have ever met, and I haven't met her. I don't know her. But she's still the biggest liar I've ever met. I'm being so real about this. Like, and it's lies that are documented. She'll lie about something that has been previously documented on her account. I mean it. There's compilation videos of her lying. So list a few of her lies, some that are like, you know, nothing. You didn't need to lie about this. And others that are like, whoa, why did you lie about this? One, she lied about an aunt that went low or no contact with her because she was fat, when that was not the reason the aunt stopped communicating with her. She consistently lies about diagnosis, which is crazy because your health shouldn't be something you share with the public unless you're dying. Call me woke, but I think we should keep our health scares to ourselves. Can you, and like, it's also, nobody's entitled to your medical information. Can you imagine I went on here one day and I was like, no one's entitled to your medical information to begin with. But the fact that you're lying about your medical information is crazy. Can you imagine I come on here and one day I'm like, oh my god guys, I got diagnosed with IBS, so I can't stop pooping all over the floor. There's poopy everywhere. And then 2 videos later, I'm like, I never said that. I've never been tested for IBS in my life. I have never shit on the fucking floor. She's lied about her ability to wipe her own ass.
Does Becky have to help you wipe and shower? No, she does not. Super rude, and they're getting told every day that they're fat and gross and 600 pounds and bedbound and disgusting and smell and you're a monster and you abuse Becky and your animals. You can't do anything for yourself. You can't even wipe your ass. Like when you're told. Started wiping me after my hysterectomy and it continued on after that. This part is embarrassing and this part I am going to be accountable.
Again, call me conservative, but I think there's certain things we shouldn't imply or say on the fucking internet. I don't need to know who or how your ass gets wiped. I don't need to know these pieces of information. She's lied about an FBI agent named Frank.
The FBI said, contact her because we need to talk to her. I was terrified. I had a panic attack because I had to sit there immediately. He said, you are not in trouble. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Turns out, y'all, the FBI is actually on my side. I never thought that like cops or the FBI even remotely would care about some YouTuber online. Frank is real, I promise. That's not his name, but it's real, I promise.
And that Frank watched her content. She also, this is a bit more of a serious one, she did lie about there not being an emergency vet in her area, a 24-hour emergency vet in her area.
So we don't really have like any 24-hour vet places, which is kind of...
When her dog desperately needed to be seen by a vet, and there was one, but she went to like Denny's instead of taking her dog to the vet.
Warmer because I had to get medicine. Becky's always behind me. Our new little restaurant, Chili's. How'd you like the chips and salt?
So that's it's a thing that happened. I could go on, but really the point of this is that you want your audience to trust you as, you know, any kind of content creator. You want to be trustworthy to the general public. And that is hard enough to get when you're a controversial figure. It is even harder when you actually are telling the truth and your audience has no fucking clue because all you've ever done is lie. I wanted to make this video a couple months ago when one of our exes came out with some of the absolute most disgusting things I have ever heard on the internet, but I had like real life job stuff going on at the time, so I didn't get a chance to, and by the time my own life had cooled down, the situation had kind of died down, so I thought there was like no reason to do that. But now we're in the remix, so I figured might as well. I also want to point out another consistent thing with Amberlynn Reid is that her exes come out with allegations of abuse. This has happened so many times, it is frightening. It's frightening because this information is now readily available. So any of her recent girlfriends within the past couple years that date her and then are shocked, they're like, oh my God, she's abusive. Like, yeah, you saw that. You Google her name and it's like one of the first things that comes up. You put Amberlynn Reid in the search bar on YouTube and you get the series Victims of an Empath by Mr. Snowflake. It's like, yeah. This isn't a situation like the girls reading fan fictions about Bucky Barnes. This isn't an I can fix him situation. You can't fix her. Stop trying. But this all started years back when Amberlynn Reid falsely accused one of her exes, Casey, of rape.
And the love was gone. R-A-P-E, rain and petals, eavesdrop. I used the wrong word. Rain and petals, eavesdrop. I used the wrong word.
That's a real response she made to it. That's a rain and petals eavesdrop? I used the wrong... Anyway, but in response to these allegations, Casey came out with his own video detailing the relationship between him and Amberlynn Reid at the time, and it is as abusive as you would think. Throwing things, yelling, screaming, tantrums, all of that kind of stuff. And that was huge news at the time when that hit the Amberverse, because at the time, Amber was dating Beck, and we'll get more into Beck in a second. Hints have been made that her behavior was very similar when she was dating Crystal, but Crystal hasn't said anything about it to my knowledge, so I don't want to speak on that in detail because nothing has been confirmed by another party. The Beck era is the time that I got into Girl World. I started watching the reaction channels, I mean Michael B. Petty, you know, all the original ones during the Beck era. And Beck was the best received of Amberlynn's girlfriends. By the audience at large, at least. Beck had a personality, hobbies, and interests that deviated from Amberlynn, so they were just generally better content. And Beck was also very grounded, which was a breath of fresh air to the audience after whatever the train wreck that Destiny was. Even then, though, it was clear to the audience and the reaction channels that the behavior of Amberlynn to Beck was toxic and a red flag. There's compilation videos that date 5-6 years back discussing this that aren't made recently, you know. Hindsight is 2020. The hindsight was 2020 when it was happening. We all saw it. We all saw the behavior. And to us, the audience, to Hater Nation Girl World, we were like, if this is what she's willing to show, how much worse is it behind the scenes? Well, after Amberlynn and Beck broke up, having the shortest engagement I have ever seen in my life, Amber couldn't keep her big narcissistic mouth shut about Beck over and over throughout the 2 years that they had been separated. So Beck decided to release statements and interviews discussing their time with Amberlynn Reid, and it is vile. That is the only kind word that I can use to discuss it. It is vile, it's disgusting. Some of the things alleged by Beck are Amberlynn would put timers on their phone to limit the amount of interactions Beck could have with other people.
Kind of found that helpful sometimes. She'd sit in one spot and clean the areas that she could reach from her seat while I cleaned everywhere else. If I watched a movie in the living room with friends or did anything outside of the room she was in and she didn't plan on joining, she'd always ask how long the movie was or what I'd be doing and for how long. I don't know if she'd set a timer in those instances, but I would get a text right around the time I estimated asking if I was done and when I'd be coming back. She'd set a timer for Lent pick.
Amber pocketed the money Beck was given as an inheritance from their late mother, claiming it to be used for bills and other things, wherein you could have just handed that money back over to Beck. But Amber claimed that she didn't have her own bank account. That's beside the point. Amber encouraged Beck to leave their job to stay as a full-time caretaker to Amber.
She needed a caretaker, and that was already my full-time job, and a thankless one. Despite that, and doing what I could to contribute by also being in the vlogs, when she knew full well that I didn't want to be, in order to earn the home I was living in her mind, she would also be sure to take away any money I'd get from other sources. I mentioned this before, but even being seen collecting change would trigger her to question whether I was saving up to leave her. When my mother passed away, me and my siblings received a portion of a settlement from my dad's job that ended up being around $5,000 to $6,000 for each of us. I was not allowed to keep it. She told me that the money had to go into paying the bills and my half of the rent. My mom.
Amber never paid Beck for any of the content they were in after the breakup.
In my Q&A with Karina, I talked about the money Amber owed me. I never did see any of that money and still have.
Amber let the animals shit and piss and bleed all over a mattress in her apartment and never bothered to clean it.
The mattress and litter box that you recently told us about being covered in piss and shit that no one was attending to regarding the pets that you came across, were you responsible for cleaning all of that up and throwing away the mattress? Were there times where you were throwing away mattresses or things that normally, if they were given ordinary maintenance, you would just kind of throw them away because they were beyond repair, or it was better to just buy a new one instead of clean it.
I was the one who eventually cleaned up the litter boxes. Some people may think that was the first sign to turn around and run, and I should have, but I felt bad for her. At the time, I thought she just needed help, and that was something that Amber could just physically not do, but that's not an excuse to put your animals through that. The bed was...
She would wipe her ass with one of their roommates' late mother's washcloths and just throw them away.
But it wasn't quickly. After Amber's cancer scare and hysterectomy, I was the one who took care of her while she was healing. And yes, I was the one who wiped her. But I wiped her plenty before that. I believe from sometime in 2019 to June 2021 when we broke up. Before I started wiping her, she would use washcloths to wipe. She would set them on the corner of the sink, and then she would turn herself around to wipe herself on it. And then she would throw them away. Our roommates started to notice that their late mother's washcloths were disappearing, and they confronted her about it, and she wanted me to lie to them for her.
Not to mention other things like choosy and things that had become a meme throughout the community, but these allegations are horrifying. These allegations are unbelievably insane to even think about, and I am so sorry that anybody had to live through this with any partner, but let alone it being Amberlynn Reid, who has the personality of a fucking rutabaga. Become a full-time caretaker for Amber, and at some point in their relationship, you know, the caretaking was warranted. Amber had cancer, at least a cancer scare. I am still trying to figure out if it was like actual cancer or if it was the, you know, pre-cancer where you cut out all the tumors and stuff to get rid of it. It's unclear. But she was going through a general health crisis where Beck had to take care of her. And in my mind, that's perfectly fine. You know, till death do you part. If your partner has a disability and you are capable of taking care of them, I think it is your obligation to, you know, stay, bare minimum. My issue comes from the fact that some of the other problems Beck had to solve and the things that Beck had to take care of were not due to the cancer or anything outside of Amber's control. It was all because of Amber's weight. That is something completely in her control. It is. Your weight should not dictate somebody else's life and their happiness and their hobbies. It shouldn't. Point blank, period. And if you refuse to get help and you refuse to go and you go to the hospital and do inpatient treatment, that's on you. Beck shouldn't have had to deal with half of this bullshit. It's no one else's fault that you are that big. It is not medical issues. It is not the binge monster. If that's how you describe your eating disorder, and you excuse your eating disorder with the fucking binge monster, go to prison. No one else's fault. It is yours. Just yours, Amber. Beck was the big bomb drop after a really long time, and so the community ate it up, and it was nice to hear from Beck and get their side of the story. And if you guys are really interested in more details about the Beck era, maybe someday I'll go into a really long deep dive about the Beck era, but until then, their channel is up, and Mr. Snowflake has some updates from Beck if you guys are interested in that from them. Any support you can give them. I believe their channel is monetized, so go ahead and take a watch, and I'll link that down below, and I'll link a few other important videos about this creator down below. But I think listening to Beck is always very important because their story deserved to be told.
Editing Hannah here. Beck has shared some disheartening news. Our Amber vs. Monarch cannot catch a break. Here are some snips of what they have shared. The link to their channel is down below.
Right after Beck, and I mean right after Beck, I mean that. I mean the engagement video dropped, then the We Broke Up live stream, and then a one live stream in between that, and then it was implied Amber had a brand new person. Sure. Anyway, the partner Amber had right after Beck was Jade, wifey Feline, and Amber really tried to convince the internet that these were all three separate people. They're not. Same woman. Same lady. There was rumblings of DV in that relationship too, but the sources that have said that I don't trust as far as I can throw them, so I'm not gonna really discuss that, but just know that the allegations of that are out there, but Jade has never said anything herself, so I'm taking that with a grain of salt. Following wifey Jade Feline was a woman named Erica or Valentine, a married woman that Amber knew was married and continued being the side piece and continued trying to isolate and get Erica out of her marriage. Okay. Choice you made. Finally, the most recent girlfriend is Tommy Emily. Tommy was hated in the community from the get. Why? Why, you may ask? Why would someone within 5 minutes of them being introduced on the channel be so hated? She's a feeder. She's a death feeder, I might add. I was told in the woke 2025 that we shouldn't kink shame, but I'm not a fucking liberal, so I'm gonna kink shame. I can't listen, to each their own, whatever gets your rocks off, but I can't imagine being like, man, I really love this person, you know, they're my soulmate, they mean everything to me. It would be so sexy if they died. And I know it's more complicated than that, and I know it's not the act of them dying itself, it's the act of them getting like so morbidly obese that they pass away, but it's still like and for once in the history of Girl World, Amber's core actual supporters and Hater Nation were in agreement, and they're like, Amber, please, for the love of God, don't date this woman. Because Emily's accounts on feeder stuff were like public. Everyone found them within like a day of Emily being on the internet. Like 1 minute. Took people 1 minute, and they found like, hey, girlfriend died. They had a death feederism account, babe. Back up, get out of here, run, for the first time, run, Amber, run. It was just like, hey, she isn't a good person to be with, especially if you're trying to get better and get healthier, because the weight you're at is, you're not gonna live that much longer, babe. Please. And you know what Amber did instead? She stood 10 toes down and was like, no, this is the soft love of my life. We're gonna get married, okay? All right. And then, and I shit you not, and then Amber packed up a lot of her shit and her elderly animals and drove all the way to Wisconsin to be with her. It sounds so ridiculous. This sounds like a shitty Wattpad novel. This sounds like the things that inspire 50 Shades of Grey. Here's the thing. Amberlynn has 3 animals. Amberlynn had 3 elderly animals. I don't exactly remember the ages. I believe Rarity was 11, Twinkie is 10, and Wasabi is like 8 or 9. I have a 10-year-old dog. Her name is Pippa. Here's a picture. I barely put Pippa in the car to take her to the dog park because it freaks her out. And that's a 10-minute drive. I can't imagine. I can't imagine shoving my 10-year-old dog in the car for a prolonged period of time to get some pussy. It's like you couldn't have like asked your mom to watch the pets like for a while. You had to take them with you. And the reason she took them with her was definitely because Amber wanted to move in with Emily. Like, she was even looking for therapists in Wisconsin. She doesn't live there. But this is also not the first time Amber has been accused of being like a bad pet owner, and we'll get more into that in a second. I mean, we'll get more into that specifically with this incident in a second. But there is a theory that a whole thing in the Destiny era is that Destiny's cat Gracie got out, wasn't able to be found. The running theory is that Amberlynn let Gracie out because their apartment had a rule with how many pets you could have at the time, and Amber wanted a cat, so Gracie had to go. And Amberlynn was so disinterested in Destiny's grief over losing her cat, and then proceeded to get one like the next day or some shit like that. In the Wisconsin era, Amber seemed just so depressed. And you know what, probably because Emily had like a job and wasn't at your beck and call. Emily works in healthcare, by the way. I would like you to think about that. So, and closer to the end of the year of her stay with Justin Feeder, Amberlynn announced that her cat Rarity had ran away. There's so much about this that pisses me off. And there's like 5 different stories about how Rarity ran away. Currently, my belief, this is just my personal belief, and this is the theory that had been running around for a while, that has been kind of confirmed by screenshots Emily has shared, is that Amberlynn let Rarity out on purpose because Emily wanted her to leave. So I think we just discussed Gracie. I think we just did that. If that's true, then that is evil in and of its own right, but that's tracks with being manipulative and being awful and not caring for anybody's well-being but your own. If Amberlynn's story is the truth, then she's a fucking moron. And she's just an idiot. Because her story is that, and this has changed like several times, is that she just didn't notice for hours that her cat was gone. I'm sorry. I've never owned a cat. I'm very allergic, but I have friends who own cats, and they have the urge about once an hour to go run up to them and go so you know where they are at all times. You're trying to tell me that that urge never came to you and you just didn't notice for hours that your cat was just gone? That is so much worse than you letting her out on purpose. Because the thing is, if a cat runs away, typically a person will open the door, the cat will run out, and you know right away the cat's gone. And originally that was her story. She opened the door, she ran out. She explored too hard.
Cats don't run away, they explore. And they explore too hard, and then they get lost. That's what happened with Rarity.
But then it just continuously changed because times that she gave, it's just ridiculous. So my problem here is that obviously not just the fact that she was irresponsible and the cat ran away, and she is 35 years old, so she should know better. It's that Rarity didn't even need to be put into this situation. Rarity could have stayed home. Her mom could have watched the cats. And this didn't have to happen. But she brought the cats into this dangerous situation. And I said this isn't her first time being accused of being a neglectful animal owner. Gracie, there's literally footage of her throwing a cat around.
Ew, it's probably leaking.
I talked earlier about the 24-hour vet. Like, you don't deserve to have these animals. That poor kitty. And God help the next cat that you have, which I know you have one. I am in awe of this woman's audacity. After that, Amberlynn went back to Oklahoma. She lied about her and Emily breaking up and blah, 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 blah. I don't care enough about their relationship drama. I can just tell you that Amberlynn posted a video saying that we have broken up, and then that was a lie. And all of this kind of like settled down. Her content was just boring again. Nobody cared enough. And then Mr. Snowflake released a video with screenshots from his conversation with Emily that he had over Instagram. And the details Emily described were horrific just as vile as the accusations Beck came out with. It described Amber's abuse, the horrific details of it. That video is linked down below for some more in-depth discussion about it. But it's stuff like throwing things, yelling, screaming, her animals being afraid of her when she has these meltdowns, Emily feeling unsafe to come home, some of the isolating tactics that she used with Beck resurfacing, and in response, Amberlynn proceeded to have several narc meltdowns on live.
I tried pushing past her to get through the doorway and she pushed back into me and actually falling on top of me.
I remember I tripped over her rug. I landed into her. She fell on the ground. And I'm like, as that's happening, I'm trying to get her, like, as she's falling, I go to grab her off the ground. It didn't work out very well. She still landed on the floor. And then she started like hysterically, how come you pushed me? I'm like, what is actually happening? So she like, I don't know. It was this whole fucking thing. And I was like, this cannot be real right now.
And they were filled with excuses and Darvo and projection and all of it. And her new favorite thing, which is to blame borderline personality disorder on everything. I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. Here. I have borderline personality disorder. This is true, this is not a bit. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder a few years ago by a psychiatrist. And I will say that using BPD as an excuse to be violent and destructive is absolutely diabolical. Do I understand that an episode of borderline personality disorder can be scary and difficult to deal with, and you do get violent and you do get scary and you do say things you don't mean, and you say things that you never thought yourself capable of? While that is so traumatizing for the person who has BPD, because you just never thought that you would be that type of person to do things like that or say things like that or feel the way that you do, it is just as traumatizing, if not more, for the recipient of your bad behavior. I have done and I have said things during a BPD split that I'm not proud of, and I've had to work my ass off on fixing my own behavior and apologizing and working to the friends and family that I've hurt because of it. Trauma doesn't go away because you have a pretty little label as to why it happened, because no one is entitled to your forgiveness. Regardless of why you did it, it's an explanation, but it does not excuse the behavior. You don't get to throw things at people, scare people, put your hands on people, dig your nails into their arms, and be like, oh, well, I was having a BPD meltdown, you can't blame me. No, you can't do that. And it doesn't matter how long ago the episode was, and it doesn't matter if you were untreated or unmedicated. That trauma is still there, and no one is entitled to forgive you. If you have borderline personality disorder, you are not entitled to forgiveness when an episode ruins somebody else's life. You're not. And that is something you have to be okay with. And if you are in therapy, like you say, that is something that they tell you. And you have to work on the behavioral part of your therapy. You have to, and medication is optional. I'm not medicated because I was told I probably don't need it because I respond well to behavior therapy. Sometimes you need both. Sometimes you just need one. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can't expect people to forgive you when you have a BPD meltdown, and you can't expect it to be an excuse, because it's not. You still did a shitty thing. You have to accept the consequences of the shitty thing that you did. I do need to say this though. I don't like Emily. I feel like that's been very clear. Feeding your partner to the point where they pass away and going onto the internet and shit-talking your current partner whenever you're in a fight are just as toxic and awful. But there is no denying that Emily, in this situation, was a victim of Amberlynn Reid. However, I can't feel bad for her because they're still talking. And listen, I know it is so hard to get out of an abusive relationship, but some of the biggest things that hold people back from getting out of an abusive relationship don't apply to this one. You are long distance. You do not live in the same state. I get there's going to be moral and emotional consequences from things like this happening, and there's no getting around that. But you could just pick up your phone and you could just block her, delete her number, never speak to her again. It's also not like Amber is one of those people that can get on a plane and follow you, so you don't have to worry about that. So, I'm sorry. I know I said no joke, and I know that's like an implied bad joke, but I'm sorry. It's true. She's not gonna. She can't. All this leads into a very recent development, which is kind of where things are left off today, and that's with Amber's aunt. Do you remember the one I mentioned earlier? The one that she lied about, the reason why they were in no contact? Yeah, she's back. See, this is why things come full circle in the Amberverse. We have an arc here in the Amberverse. Everyone does except for Amber. Amberlynn's Aunt Tammy decided to release some screenshots of a conversation she had with Emily, just defending Amber and talking about how awful Emily was for dating somebody in Amber's condition, which, yeah, she's right. Why are we booing? She's right. After this, her aunt decided to go live with OhLordyitsJordy, and then Amberlynn went on live again and had another narc meltdown. Aunt Tammy revealed a lot of intricacies about Amberlynn's life and her childhood, and Amberlynn's response to it is really what's telling to me. One of the first things is that OhLordyitsJordy was talking a bit about Rarity, you know, rest in peace Rarity, you were very cute. Was talking about Rarity and the fact that the common belief amongst the community is that Amber let her out to stay with Emily, and instead of being like, I would never do that, blah, 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 just denying it with her whole chest, Amber's response was this.
Tammy, it's hard for you to wrap that around your brain because you know I would never fucking do that, and you knew how much Rarity fucking meant to me. The fucking timing is crazy off the chain coincidence, and it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. If I wanted to stay in Wisconsin, I would have came up with some bullshit like, oh, I'm sick, or oh, my legs, or oh, I can't go. I would have came up something that had to do with me. I would not ever put my fucking animals in.
The biggest takeaway that people had from this, and the most shocking bit of information, was Aunt Tammy revealed that she had been having an affair, a very public affair to her family, with a man that she met at a karaoke bar, and it seemed to be a good and loving relationship, and Aunt Tammy's marriage was very abusive, very toxic, and at the time, Amberlynn's mother was homeless. It is important to realize that Amberlynn's mom is a drug addict, has been jailed, etc., etc. And Aunt Tammy did not want to house Amberlynn's mother for reasons I think that are obvious. And everyone knew that Aunt Tammy's relationship was abusive, it was toxic, and Amberlynn decided to blackmail her aunt. Amberlynn said, and I quote, "How would your husband feel about you and the karaoke guy?"
Day is when Amber tried to blackmail me, and she said things like,
Mary.
And it was to try to get my sister to come live with me again, because I would not let her back in my home. She said, I wonder what your husband would think if she knew you were doing what you were doing with the karaoke guy. And that's how...
Oh no, 22-year-old Amberlynn didn't like seeing her mom homeless, so she blackmailed and said, oh, I wonder what your husband would do. Isn't that what she's been...
Putting her aunt, blackmailing her aunt into potentially putting her in a very, very dangerous situation. And she was 22. At 22, you know better. You know what blackmail is. You know the consequences of your actions when you're 22. A few other things that were revealed in this live stream is that Amberlynn never gave her mom any money while her mom was in jail. And to me, that's like, okay, you know, I also wouldn't if it were my abusive mom. That was one of the reasons I was in foster care. That was the one thing I'm like, okay, Amber, yeah, it's not her responsibility. Sorry. Like, I think now when you get older and you have a better relationship with your parent and the parent does more for you now and things change, then yeah, at some point you should pay for their care if you have the capability. But if you are like 18 and your mom's in prison and kind of was horrible to you and you had a really shitty childhood and was an abusive drug addict, then yeah, no. That was one of the things I fundamentally disagreed with Aunt Tammy there. I was like, okay, Amber is actually right for this one. For once in her career, Amberlynn's correct. And the other thing is, Amber lived with Aunt Tammy for a while, and the housing situation was awful. They all lived in a living room pretty much, and it was consistent complaints that there wasn't enough food, there wasn't beds, there wasn't enough space. And you know, I think that's a fair thing to criticize. That's a fair thing to be upset about. And this is coming from somebody who's also lived in abstract poverty most of her life. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable thing to get upset about. However, you've experienced worse. There's something to be grateful for in the little you have when you do get to have something. Even if it's not a lot, even if you think it's not much. I mean, this woman opened her home to you when she didn't have to do that. She wasn't obligated to take care of you and your sibling and your mother. She wasn't obligated to do any of that. And also, if you had an issue with not having enough money or not having enough food, get your ass off the couch and go get a job. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. You do what you can to survive, and you learn to do what you can to survive, and you have no survival instincts. None! Not a one! And that's kind of where things are at now. I mean, Amber's been radio silent. As I'm recording this, she's supposed to go live. It's a Sunday when I'm recording this, but she skipped her last scheduled live.
Editing Hannah here again. Oh ladies, germs, and worms, Amber did go live. She went live all right. And Aunt Tammy called. Here's some highlights.
I love her, and I genuinely enjoyed being around her, and I can't wait to see her again. And that's the truth.
Well, good. I hope you guys live a miserable life together. In this world, for Amber to move to Oklahoma City, it was me, your aunt. Your mom didn't want you to come. She was very nervous about you coming because of the destruction and stress level that you bring with your just
every single day. I didn't know. I mean, that's how I'm feeling because
you truly are a piece of work. I tell you what, your manipulation is just like it used to work. It used to work. It used to catch me. It used to slow me down and give you the benefit of the doubt. But I just see it too clearly now, and I don't even know if I want to.
So what does this all mean other than it serving as a little bit of motivation for you and I? Because we can live our lives and they won't be as batshit and crazy as this, and we won't be as awful to other people. Girl World is a crazy community because it is absolutely nuts to me that I know so much about this woman's content and I can quote this woman's content, but I have never actually been on her channel and watched a goddamn thing. I have never done that. I've only ever gotten my content through reaction channels. And I think that is something to be said because it's a group of people holding somebody accountable for them being awful. And, you know, these people make their own money and, you know, they have their own bag, and that's great. I don't know. I just wanted some altruistic reason to talk about this. I just want to gossip. Sue me, I guess. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, you can like it. If you didn't, I don't know. Don't comment it because I'll get real sad. I actually have to go. I found out there's some hot singles in my area and that they want to meet me. So I gotta pack up me, my 10-year-old dog, my horse, my carriage, and I gotta go meet them. Bye.